One other thing, the Buddha said that most beings, after we pass away, will be born into the woeful planes, and that's because of the ego. Because our ego, we want to protect ourselves, we want to protect those whom we consider as part of ourselves. That means our family members, those are our same race, those are our same religion, those are our same countries. So sometimes we do a lot of evil deeds. And because of that, the Buddha said most beings after we pass away will fall into the woeful planes. There are 3 woeful planes. Plane of hell beings, that's the worst. And second, after that is animal realm. And slightly better than that is the ghost realm. These 3 are the 3 woeful planes of rebirth. And human beings are in the middle, and on top of us are the Deva realms, heavenly planes. So, possibly, as a rough estimate, maybe out of every 10 persons, only 2 or 3 come back as a human being or go to heaven. Perhaps 7 or 8 might be reborn into the woeful planes. So because of that, we should be very careful to live our life. We should take some trouble to learn the Dhamma, because life is very short. As I mentioned before, on the average we live up to 70. If you calculate how much time you have left, if you have 30 more years, you're 40, you have 30 more years, that only means 30 more New Years to celebrate. One goes by, you have 29, another goes by, you have 28. Time very short, so we have to make the most use of it. If you want those that you love to have the same rebirth as you, to meet them again in the future, because there was an old man and an old woman came to see the Buddha, and the 2 of them were very well matched. And they told the Buddha, from the time they got married as teenagers up to the present, at that time they were very old, they loved each other so much, they never even had a thought of anger towards each other. So they said they'd like to meet again in the next life. And they asked the Buddha whether it's possible. The Buddha said, if 2 persons, if people have the 4 things in common, they can meet again. The first one is the faith. Faith, that means you have the same religious beliefs and all that. The second one is morality. That means your morals are just as good or just as bad. Your precepts. The third one, generosity, whether you are just as generous or just as kedukut, selfish. And the 4th one is wisdom, whether you are just as wise or just as foolish. So these 4 things are the same, you'll meet again. But the fact that we meet now, the Buddha said, it's very hard to find a being who is not related to you in the past. Everybody that we meet were related to us some way or other in the past. We might have been father and children, or mother and children, or something. Because you think about it, in this world, so many billions of people, but the number of people we actually meet, which actually come to know, not many, right? So these people that we come to meet, come to know, are those who have affinity with us from the past. Once a cousin of the Buddha by the name of Mahanama came to see the Buddha, and he told the Buddha, he said, Lord, I was thinking, suppose one day I might have a violent death, I might, when I go out of the city, I might get killed by bandits, or might get attacked and killed by a tiger, or I might get run down by a horse or something, And if I die a violent death, could I be reborn into a woeful plane? So that's an interesting question, if you have a violent death. So the Buddha said, don't worry, Mahanama, don't worry. For a long time you have practiced the Dhamma, you have lived your life according to the Dhamma, and your mind is inclined towards the Dhamma. And because of that, when you pass away, your mind will bring you that way. The Buddha didn't explain further, but to my thinking, what the Buddha is trying to say is that our everyday mind is very important. If you are a good-natured person, your everyday mind, that is your natural frequency. So when you pass away, you will go to a state where beings are also peaceful because your mind is peaceful. But you are a type of person who is very agitated, very hot-tempered, very angry every day, and there's a lot of violence and all that. Immediately you pass away, that everyday mind of yours will bring you to a rebirth where people are also violent and full of anger and all that, like the asuras, Asura. So our everyday mind is very important. That's why it's good for us to learn the Dhamma, and then after that we practice the good way. So our mind is inclined towards Dhamma, and that will bring us to a good rebirth. There is one incident mentioned in the books about this Bodhidharma. Bodhidharma was an Indian monk who went to China a long time ago. He was one of the earliest monks from India to go to China. And he was very famous. He was a very famous monk. And the king, the emperor, heard about him and invited him to the palace. And this emperor had done a lot of charity, he built a lot of temples and monasteries for the monks and nuns. He did built a lot of orphanages and a lot of charitable work. So when he thought he had done a lot of merit, so when he met this Bodhidharma, he told this Bodhidharma, this monk, he said, I've done a lot of merit, I've done a lot of good deeds. Do you think I have a lot of merit? And this Bodhidharma, being a holy man, they talk very straight, And he told him, you have no merit. So when he heard he had no kongte, merit, the king was very unhappy, and he thought to himself, I've done so much good, this monk says I don't have any kongte, and refused to talk to this monk. So this monk left the palace and went on his way. And later the king was talking to his advisor, why this monk talks like that. Then the advisor said, if this monk says that is so, then it must be so, because he's a very holy monk. Then this king thought, maybe must be true if this monk says so. Then the king asked his advisor to go and call that monk to come back. And the advisor said, this monk, once he decides to leave, nobody can call him back. So what this Bodhidharma was trying to say is that there is a difference between worldly merit and spiritual merit. Worldly merit is what they call futa hoktik, right? Spiritual merit is kongte kongtik. Worldly merit is that blessings that brings you to a good rebirth, like you do a lot of charity. As a result of that, you can be reborn in the heavens. But spiritual merit is that merit that brings you out of samsara and brings you out of the round of rebirths. So we have to differentiate between worldly merit, futa, and spiritual merit, kongte. And doing a lot of worldly merit is good, it helps us, it supports us. But if we want to get out of samsara, then we have to study the Buddha's teachings and we have to meditate. And that's the difference. And then one other thing is about transference of merit. Where if our relative has passed away and we wish to do some merit for that person, in India a long time ago, they used to also offer food for their departed relatives, just as we do on the All Souls Day, Cheng Beng, we offer food at the graveyard. But Chinese, after offering food, we take back and makan, right? We eat. Indian is slightly different. After they offer, they burn it, burn everything, So this Brahmin came to ask the Buddha. He said, we do this offering for our relatives who have departed. Do they actually get it? It's an interesting question. So the Buddha said, it depends on where they are reborn. If they are reborn in heaven, they won't get it. If they are reborn as a human being, they won't get it. If they are reborn as animal, they won't get it. If they are reborn in hell also, you can't help them. Only if they are reborn as a ghost, that they will get it. And the Buddha didn't explain further. But to my thinking, why it's possible that a ghost will get it is because when your relative has passed away as a ghost, he'll go here and there And he suffers because he can't find food, he cannot get clothes to wear. So he'll think, who can help me? Only my relative will help me. That's why ghosts like to come near and live near human beings, But some people, they see ghosts, some people, they dream of ghosts. So because of that, if our relative has passed away, the chances of helping the relative is quite remote. Only if that person is born as a ghost, that he will come back to get the help, you see. So for our Theravada tradition, if we want to help our departed relatives, very simple, we don't have much rituals. We go to the temple and offer food to the monks and offer a piece of cloth or rope. Because when that person is born as a ghost, what does he need? Firstly, he needs food. Secondly, he needs clothes to wear. These are the two most important things. If you do a lot of chanting for that person, it's no use. Because a person who's hungry, he doesn't want to listen to all the chanting, isn't it? He wants makan. So for us, very simple. Offer food, offer clothes. There is a contemplation. The Buddha advised us, all of us, to make this contemplation. The first one is, I am of the nature to age. I have not gone beyond aging. Second one, I'm of the nature to sicken. I have not gone beyond sickening. Third one, I'm of the nature to die. I have not gone beyond dying. Fourth one, all that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. The fifth one, I'm the owner of my karma, heir to my karma, born of my karma, related to my karma, abide supported by my karma. Whatever karma I shall do, for good or for ill, of that I shall be the heir. Thus we should frequently recollect. These are the 5 contemplations. The first 3 is that we are growing old, and one day we become sick, one day we will die. The fourth one is those that are beloved to us, those who are very dear to us, and our property and all that will change. We have to, they will separate from us, or we will separate from them. The fifth one is karma, is what is supporting us. We will inherit the result of karma. And every day we are supported by our karma, so we have to be very careful about our karma. This is a good contemplation to make every day. The last thing I like to say is that sometimes when we have problems, for example, especially if we get sick, people who have cancer and all that, we go everywhere looking for a miraculous cure. We hear of this place, very very powerful, and then we go there and look for a cure. We hear another place, we go everywhere looking for a cure. But if we understand the Dhamma, then we make some effort, but we don't become unduly alarmed. Most people, when the time for death comes, they become very alarmed because they are not prepared for it. Whereas understanding the Dhamma makes us prepare for it. Because if we understand the Dhamma, that everything is impermanent, that one day because we are born, we have to die. And if we accept the fact, then even when death comes, we accept it calmly. Because if you can't accept it, then you'll suffer a lot. You see people going here, going there, looking for a cure for their cancer. But even if they get a miracle, even if a miracle happens, and then they are cured, how long more can they live? Maybe another 5 years, maybe another 10 years. Another day, death will come again. And when you see the face of death, you shake and tremble again. But if you understand the Dhamma, then we are prepared for it. So I will end here now, and I hope you have some questions to ask.
Question is, why do Theravada monks eat meat? Now, this is a very sensitive question, and there are many different opinions concerning meat eating, but it is best that we refer to the Dhamma Vinaya, the Suttas and the Vinaya, to know exactly the Buddha's views about meat eating. When we look into the Suttas and the Vinaya, it is quite clear that the Buddha and his disciples did eat meat. For example, in the Vipaka Sutta, Majjhima number 55, a personal physician of the king, the Raja, by the name of Vipaka Kumarabhaja, came to see the Buddha, and he seemed unhappy, and he asked the Buddha whether it was true that the Buddha and his disciples ate meat that was purposely slaughtered for the Buddha and his disciples. And the Buddha said no. The Buddha said that he and his disciples only ate meat with three conditions. Firstly, that they did not see that the animal was purposely or specifically killed for them. They did not hear that the animal was purposely or specifically killed for them. They did not suspect that the animal was purposely or specifically killed for them. With these three conditions, then only is meat allowed. Without these three conditions, meat is not allowed. So from this sutta, we know that the Buddha's disciples ate meat. Another one is in the Anguttara Nikaya 8.2.12, where a general by the name of Siha, he had just been converted to Buddhism, and he invited the Buddha and his disciples to his house for a meal and served the Buddha and his disciples meat. Now the external sect ascetics were jealous of the Buddha and his disciples and went around spreading the word that the Buddha and his disciples ate meat that was purposely slaughtered for them. And Siha, the general Siha, was very annoyed and denied this. Another sutta is the Amaganda Sutta in the Sutta Nipata, where it was stated that the previous Buddha Kassapa, was reviled by an external sect ascetic for eating meat. And this external sect ascetic said that the Buddha was defiled because of meat eating. And Buddha Kassapa said that defilement does not come from eating meat, but from the mind itself. In the Vinaya, we find it is also very clear that the Buddha's disciples ate meat, because in the Vinaya, the Buddha said that there are 10 kinds of meat which were not allowed. Human meat, elephant meat, horse meat, and then wild animals like a leopard, tiger, snake, bear, even dog, etc. And the reason was that if before making this precept, it seemed that the disciples of the Buddha in their travels, when they came to certain villages, they were served some of these meat of the wild animals. But after eating the meat of the wild animals, when they went into the forest to meditate, because of the odor that came because of the sweat, for example, if they ate tiger meat, and then when they sweat, they would emit the odor of tiger meat, and because of that, they were attacked by tigers, and similarly for the other animals. And because of that, generally the Buddha made this rule, which means to say that normal meat, that is chicken, duck meat, pork, beef, etc., were allowed. Now, it is also stated in the Vinaya that if a monk is sick, then it is allowed for him to ask for special food like milk and honey, meat and fish, etc., but not if he was not sick. And also clear meat soup was allowed for a sick monk in the afternoon or evening. And there are many other instances in the Vinaya which shows that the Buddha and his disciples ate a kind of meat that was allowed. And why? Because with the three conditions mentioned before, if you don't slaughter the animal and don't ask somebody else to slaughter, don't see the slaughter and don't hear the cry of the animal as it was slaughtered, then there is no direct karma involved in eating this type of allowed meat. Now, as far as indirect karma is concerned, there is it is true that there is indirect cause, but not actually karma. There is an indirect cause indirect contribution, but that is to do with worldly cause and effect and not Kamma Vipaka or Buddhist cause and effect. Because we see that even by being a vegetarian, we still do contribute to the killing of animals indirectly just by living. For example, we all want to live in houses, and because we want to live in houses, they have to clear the forest, large areas of forest, to build housing estates. In the process, many animals are killed. We want to use electricity. Because we want to use electricity, the government has to build dams to dam the river. When the water rises in the rivers, a lot of animals are killed in the process, so we are also a party indirectly to the killing. And because we want to use household items, they have to clear large areas of forest to build factories. In the process also, many animals are killed. And we want to eat fruits and vegetables, and they also have to clear large areas of forest land to plant the fruits and vegetables, and that also causes indirectly the killing of animals. In addition, the farmer sprays insecticides to kill the worms and the caterpillars, and also the insects like grasshoppers and snails, etc. And even by eating vegetables and fruits, we are also a party to the killing. And because we want to be free of disease, the government employs people to shoot dogs without license every day. And even just living, we cause indirectly the killing of animals. Now, some people say that because of eating meat, we create a demand, and that causes the killing of animals to provide the supply of meat. Now, this has to do with worldly cause and effect, and not Buddhist cause and effect, which has to do with karma, because there is no direct karma of killing, but there is an indirect cause. But that reasoning is not valid as far as karma is concerned, because if it were valid, then we should not be driving cars or even sit in a car or a bus. Why? Because by driving a car or sitting in a car or bus, we contribute to the demand for cars, and that causes the car industry to make more cars and vehicles every day. Now, we know by statistics that every day in the world 2,000 human beings are killed by motor vehicles every day, and countless number of animals. So by driving a car or sitting in a car or bus, we are indirectly a party to the killing of 2,000 human beings every day, and countless animals, which is worse than the eating of meat in a way. So that kind of argument that by eating meat you create a demand that has to be satisfied is true only from the point of view of worldly cause and effect. Now, most vegetarians believe that if the whole world became vegetarians, there would be no killing of animals, but that is quite a wishful thinking. Every day in Australia, thousands and thousands of kangaroos and rabbits are killed every day because they eat the crops and fruits, etc. And if we were to free all the animals and everybody became vegetarians, imagine how fast the animals would multiply, and they would be running all over the place, and the government would have no choice but to kill the animals even if we did not eat the meat. It is the karma of animals in a way to be killed. And as far as Buddhists are concerned, we should follow the Buddha's teachings and not be involved in the direct karma of killing. If we want to be vegetarians, that's very good from the compassion point of view. But if we chose to eat meat, then only the type of meat that is allowed by the Buddha with the three conditions should be taken. That is. We don't see, hear or suspect that the animal was purposely or specifically killed for us.